All right. Good afternoon, everybody. We are beginning the meeting of the Coventry Technical Review Committee. It is Monday, June 17th, 2024, and the time is 1:40 p.m. The first item of business is a determination of a quorum and a call to order. We do have a quorum present for the benefit of the record and any people that are in the room. Why don't we just go around the table with who we are?
Josh Chase, planning designee.
Thank you.
Chief Frank Brown, Fire Department.
I am Doug McLean. I'm the administrative officer, and I'm also the director of planning.
Rick Heiss, Chief of Coventry Police.
Kevin McGee, Director of Public Works.
Great. And we do have approval of minutes, and I will note Alex Berardo, who is normally here, could not attend. He's sick today. Josh is serving as the principal planner's designee in his stead. I do know we have approval of minutes on the agenda, although I don't know if they were distributed. You guys will have to inform me. Okay, then we're gonna, we'll continue those to the next TRC. So for new business for discussion, item 4 on the agenda, item 4.1 is Willow Lakes. I'd ask the applicants to come and join us at the table, please. This is for comments to the Planning Commission. The project is a reinstatement of a preliminary plan, major land development, and also a comprehensive permit. The applicant is seeking to reinstate a preliminary plan that was approved just over 2 years ago, if memory serves. And they are seeking a 202 unit independent living community with assisted living and memory care facilities located on New London Turnpike, Assessors Plat 16, Lot 3. The way we do TRC is generally members of the TRC have already provided comments. I'd ask for us just to go around the table to provide the town comments. If there's questions or anything the applicant wishes to address or provide comment on, they can. Generally, we kind of skip over. We don't need an applicant introduction. You've already given us materials. We've already created comments. So really, we're just here to relay what those comments are. And if there's a need for you to address, then we can get into that. And at the end of the day, there's no vote, no recommendation. It's just comments that we're giving to the Planning Commission for their consideration. With that being said, Josh, do you mind starting us off on this one?
Sure. Planning staff does have 2 comments. Planning staff believes that the application is properly considered a reinstatement of the previously granted preliminary plan approval, given that the applicant has not proposed any changes to the plan since it was previously approved. And for clarity, the applicant has provided a letter dated June 11th, 2024, which explains that only the independent living component of the project counts towards the overall number of dwelling units, given the way the U.S. Census defines housing. This is why the applicant only needed to provide 31 affordable units for the project to meet the 25% threshold, allowing it to be reviewed as a comprehensive plan described in notices and on agendas as a 202 unit development.
Thank you very much, Josh. So those are the planning comments. Chief Brown?
Yeah, no comments, and I agree with the reinstatement.
Chief Heiss?
I had no comments on this particular item.
Director McGee?
Yeah, no real comments, as long as the applicant is conforming to the regulations that stand now. I have no problem with reinstating it.
Yep. And this, I mean, per regulations, just to address that comment, this was a comprehensive permit application. So essentially, they were granted approval just over 2 years ago as a comprehensive permit, but that vehicle allows them to seek certain waivers from zoning. It was considered proper when we approved it, that we considered the waivers properly and everything was in order. To be honest, I think this is a case where the applicant just missed their moment of time to ask for an extension, which they could have lawfully done. But I think they picked up on the fact that it had expired just a few months late. So they're seeking a reinstatement. It's a more formal action, but essentially we're just, we're extending their approval, but it's through a reinstatement action. that's all the comments that we have on the, I'm sorry, we did have a number of comments that were provided by, the town engineer on the project. I don't wish to read them. They have been provided, via email. Most of them are minor and technical in nature, asking for certain types of, considerations. Because of the number and the nature of the comments, I forwarded them to the applicant so they could be prepared to speak to them. But as a whole, it's understood that all of the comments could be addressed and incorporated into a final plan proposal. Right now, we're reinstating the preliminary plan. And I think the applicant's giving us exactly what we had approved. And if we want to consider the engineer's comments, we can do that at final. With that being said, I don't know if the applicant wishes to make any statements about that or address any components of it.
Just very briefly, Mike Resnick, on behalf of the applicant owner, I'm joined by Ben Cato, the project engineer. We did receive a set of questions or items that your engineer wanted us to take a look at. We've reviewed them. We have no objection to incorporating them into a final approval in any way. As I had said to you, my only concern, because this is a reinstatement, the context of it, I believe we do have to submit the same plan set. And that's the reason why we're just asking for those final conditions to be put off to our final submission. The only other item that I would highlight, Doug, is just the question about the number of affordable units.
Yep.
I did provide you with a letter based on the interpretation of the US Census Bureau. And just to be clear, there is 124 independent living units. Those are the units that would be subject to the 25% threshold. So there's going to be 31 of those types of units. The 48 assisted living and the 30 memory care do not come within the definition which flows from federal law.
Yeah.
So we gave you some paperwork on it. Other than that, I'm more than happy to answer any questions, but it's the same plan. It's a good project. I can represent to this TRC subcommittee that my clients are ready, willing, and able. They want to put shovels in the ground on this as soon as possible. This thing is funded. It's ready to go. I was not previous counsel. There was an issue with respect to asking for an extension. If we had done it, it would be by right at that point. It wouldn't have been for cause yet. So it's not that, not that old of a project. The preliminary was February 9, 2022. So we appreciate the comments, but we're ready to go to the preliminary reinstatement, and we're ready to get started on this project. So.
Okay, well, sounds good. Any other comments? Is any other questions or comments at the table?
No.
All right, so we do have those comments are on the record. They'll be part of the technical review committee report, which will be delivered to the planning commission. This will be on our agenda at the planning commission on June 26th. If memory serves, it's a Wednesday night next week. That being said, I think we're ready to move on to the next item.
Ben, did you have anything? I'm sorry.
No, I'm good.
And just one final item. I've sent you over the affidavit of compliance for notice.
Okay.
We'll get you the green cards, but that's already been provided.
Understood.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Yep.
Hey.
All right. I will call the next item to order. That is item number 4.2 on our agenda. That is the center of New England, which means that during this stage, even as it moves to the planning commission, no votes are given. No decision is for two specific lots, etc. Those are the two that we anticipate receiving a master plan application from the applicant in the near future. It should be noted for this project that at the request of the town, they have put some information on the other parcels that this immediate applicant, which is by the name of Star Capital LLC in this vicinity of center of New England, that are all looking to be developed in the near future. We've asked them to put some of their intent for the other parcels on the page. That is because when we're asking for certain things like traffic studies, we're going to be asking for that for the full build out of all of the parcels under their control. So we are getting a sneak preview of what is coming in the future for other parcels, but the focus for formal consideration still remains the two primary parcels that they brought in front of us. I'd note for any members of the public that there are materials available online. If you go to the planning department webpage, you'll find this same site plan that we're all working off this, as well as a very brief narrative. And with that being said, I think that's enough of an introduction. I'd like to, because there's members of the public here, and I know that this is a project of interest, I would like to go around the table and ask everyone to read their comments on this project, just so that they're heard, they're on the table, everyone's aware of what they are.
I just want to note for the record that my client is listening in, as I told you, so he's on speakerphone, he's not going to contribute, but he's listening in.
Please, Jim. Thank you very much. That's fine. And if, as representation of the client, you certainly can ask questions, or offer any feedback as we go along.
Yep, thanks.
So, hopefully that was clear. Does anyone, before we go into a departmental comment, does anyone have questions on the basic background of what's in front of us for comment today? All right, Josh, would you please start us off with the planning comments on this?
There were 4 comments from planning. Planning staff are looking for this project to incorporate deed restricted affordable housing units. Planning staff seek information or documentation such as an access easement, which might establish the applicant's right to connect to and facilitate passage over the private roadways within Plat 13, Lot 22. The version of the site plan the applicant has provided indicates that the lots which are being reviewed for the purposes of this meeting, AP 13 Lot 14 and AP 14 Lot 65, would be dedicated to single family townhouse use. Staff asks clarity as to whether single family units are being considered for these parcels. And the following items are anticipated at master plan to provide further detail on key aspects of this proposal. And they are traffic study, fiscal impact statement, landscaping plan, and architectural renderings.
Thank you. And for the applicant's benefit, you can, we'll go through, get all the comments on the page, and then you can respond or provide context after everyone's done. Chief Brown.
Yep, fire department access and water supply.
Okay. Chief Heiss.
So this project will have a major impact on the traffic flow of several streets in the area. The traffic study would have to be completed before I could comment further on the project.
Sounds good. And we do anticipate a traffic study, so we'll have more details on that during the master plan stage of review. Thank you. Director McGee.
Yeah, my concern is the density in traffic plan. Obviously, as it's showing now, it's 4 ingress and egresses all out of this proposal, and I'm not sure all of them are going to be completed when this is done. So the traffic plan is really going to be important to see where the impact is going to be.
Thank you, Director McGee. And on behalf of engineering, Josh, do you have the engineering comments on this one? I know I sent it, but
Yes, I do.
Josh, would you mind reading the engineering department's comments on this?
Post-development stormwater management is of particular importance due to the project's density and proximity to existing neighborhoods. Engineering recommends that peer reviews be conducted for all phases of stormwater design. And the applicant shall be responsible for all costs associated with the engineering analysis to determine the capacity, adequacy of the existing 10-inch gravity sewer line in center of New England Boulevard and the existing 15-inch gravity sewer line on New London Turnpike.
That's everything.
That is everything.
Those are all the comments that we have received. Again, this is a pre-application, so it is really the beginning and the starting point for a dialogue between the applicant and the community. And with the comments that you've heard, obviously, if you have any immediate reactions, we're open to, hear any additional information, context, or reactions that you might have. Otherwise, these are the comments that we're looking to bring to the planning commission. And again, this is a matter that will be in front of the planning commission for pre-application Wednesday of next week, June 26th.
Thanks, Doug.
Yep.
So for the record, my name is Kelly Morris Salvatore. I represent Star Capital. Star Capital is a company out of Maryland that the principal has just moved up to the Northeast and very excited to get involved with this project. He's bought 7 of the remaining, I think 8 lots left in center of New England. He's under contract with the receiver. I'm sure you all know that this is a property that's been under receivership for many, many years. There's a lot of complexities to this project that we're working on together. With regard to some of the comments that were made, I've been talking with Doug about a lot of these different issues in terms of LMI units. I think that's a legal issue that I'll be speaking with David Igliosi and Steve Angel about. There are certain consent orders that were filed with the court in the receivership proceedings that we need to abide by or make adjustments to as necessary. So that we're going to hold off on commenting. In terms of, I'd like, Len Bradley is also with me, as well as Paul Bannon. Len is from Dupree Engineering. He's our site engineer, and Paul Bannon is our traffic engineer, so they can also make some comments. Certainly, we do know that we will be required to provide a traffic study and a fiscal impact study. With regard to the landscape plan and the architectural renderings, I'm assuming, and again, in conversations with you, Doug, that those would be conceptual in nature.
Yeah, it's understood that there are areas of the design that would not be firm enough to give us a detailed landscape plan, but I think we're just looking for advanced information on what you're looking to do. And if there's certain areas where, perhaps a gateway or entry point, you give us an idea of perhaps what you're looking to do there. It's really just trying to understand what this will look like from various point rights of way. I'm not as concerned with the interior site plan yet. We'll get to that when we get to the preliminary plan, when you have engineering details and specifics to provide.
Yeah.
So it's really to give us an advanced understanding of what you're looking to do. It can be generalized, but if there's areas where you feel good about a specific entryway and how you're going to design that, we'll take that.
Okay. And then in terms of Josh's comment regarding, we call it lots 2 and 3, which is Assessors Plat 13, Lot 14, and Assessors Plat 14, Lot 65. Those are identified currently as single-family detached or townhouse style. They're intended to be, I think, townhouse, but some of them may be single-family units. We haven't really come up with the exact configuration or style yet. And of course, this is a pre-app. We want to keep our options open. Clearly, when we say multifamily, it's going to be either apartment style, townhouse style, or single family. My client really wants to provide a mix so that it's nice and diverse for the community to choose different types of units. So I hope that answers that question. I think at this point, I'm going to ask Len to talk about any engineering issues. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Again, my name is Lonnie Bradley, one of the principals in engineering. So as indicated, we're at the very beginning stage of the project, being pre-app. And a lot of the engineering that needs to be done still lies ahead of us, but there's a lot of work that we have been doing. specifically in lots 2 and 3. We've been out on the site, we've delineated the wetlands. We're actually submitting, if it hasn't been submitted already a wetland edge delineation to DEM for them to verify the edge. We've also done a lot of survey work. We've done aerial mapping of the whole entire Center New England area that our client is purchasing. So that's been completed, and we're in the process of working on a boundary survey for lots 2 and 3 as well. So there's still a lot of work that we have to do going forward, but again, this is the initial stage. The layout that we developed is based on what our client is, as Kelly just indicated, you know, that mix of development. So what we have shown on 2 and 3 right now are primarily duplex units. So 2 units, single family each. So that's the style that we're looking to do. It's kind of a continuation of what already exists. It's called the Highlands off along Dante Drive. So we want to kind of keep that same flow going. The architecture may be a little different. We will provide elevations so you can see what we're thinking they're going to look like. Lot 4, which is at the say the northeast corner. We've done a lot of wetland delineation work over there, and that is right now looking to be a combination of like apartment style residential with a little bit of commercial. So that was kind of the first test fit we did. I think when we go forward with the master plan, the focus is going to be on 2 and 3. And as the legend indicates, you know, my client, and I'm going to use the parcel numbers that we've kind of been working with, like parcel 8, which is off on the west side next to D'Amber. We're looking at that as probably being a mix of, you know, the duplex and apartments. The parcel 7, which is the orange parcel, you know, that is probably going to be something commercial self-storage oriented. And then there's another parcel 6, which is along Center New England, which is kind of that purplish color, which would probably be some type of C-store, you know, potentially gas if we can, you know, if it works by zoning and by not market demand, but and then we're still analyzing lot 5 to see what can be done there. So, you know, my client, you know, has you know, really thought long and hard on all the development, and basically where we are today is kind of what we developed based on the engineering and that's in surveying that's been done today. So there will be a lot more to come. And you know, from the engineering perspective, you know, we have reached out for Kent County Water and Coventry Sewer, you know, doing will serve letters. We have gone between the sewer authority, and we had a meeting a few weeks ago with capacity doesn't appear to be an issue. Same with water. So I think, you know, so there was a number of comments on you know, looking at the sewer and water. So the things we're looking at, and then as Kelly indicated, you know, Paul Bannon is here from Crossman, that he's already started on the traffic study. In the way we're looking at it, and Paul can add it, but the same thing, kind of a 2-phase traffic study, because one of the things that is going to be done as part of this project is the 2 ends of Center New England, that dead end at the stream, are going to be built. That's been recently approved by the Army Corps of Engineers and by DEM, so that will be built. So right now, the way we're analyzing traffic is if it's not there. And then we'll come back and do a subsequent report once it's built and been used for a little while, and do a second study to see if any of the lights, you know, traffic signals need timing adjustments, things of that nature. But Mr. Bannon is here. He can speak more on traffic if you do have any questions. That's all I really have.
Quick clarifying question on the thing you just said. When do you anticipate that the roadway would be built as it correlates to where you'll be in the application process?
So probably September is, so the DM approval basically requires that be done the dry time year, which is like July to September or so. We did meet with the Amber Construction. They're probably be the contractor that builds it. They've priced it up and they've given a proposal to the receiver. So they would like to build it this summer. So you know, theoretically will be built before we start our construction.
And the construction is not essentially happening underneath this project. The
No.
construction is happening as part of the receiver's actions.
Correct.
So it's not as, but you want to understand how that changes traffic patterns
Right.
for the purposes of being able to give us an accurate traffic study for the improvements that you're proposing.
Yeah, essentially, you're gonna get.
And Paul, we can pull another chair
Yeah,
at the table.
I'm fine. Paul Bailey with Enforcement Engineering. I've been involved in the center of New England since the early 2000s as part of the original development proposal. I designed the widening of the signals along the turnpike and internally. So, I know it like the back of my hand. I was involved in the original, master plan approval. The comprehensive transportation master plan study completed at that time. That approval required us to monitor traffic over time as certain elements within, i.e. Walmart, i.e. parking complex, as those were developed, as each one was being considered, we do traffic counts to say, okay, where are we now? There was a mitigation plan in that original transportation master plan that said, so if we reach this threshold, we'd have to do X, Y, Z. So using that as a basis of where we are, it makes no sense for me to count all 10 intersections that would be involved in completing out the project that may not be built out for 10 years. And then do it again after the road's built. So we want to focus on the two lots that we want to move forward. We know what we want to build. And look at a worst case scenario on Hopkins Hill Road if these were built in 2 years. So, and what the impacts would be, knowing that if the roads get built this year, traffic will be totally redistributed throughout. We'll do a comprehensive traffic study at that time, and he'll know more on what he wants to do with those other lots on the other side. So we'll give you, before we go to the next lot, where we are and what would be needed, if anything.
What do you imagine is the timing of when you'd be able to turn around the second phase of this traffic study?
Well, I would probably wait, well, if they get it done this year, I would probably wait till almost this time next year, let traffic level out. We've already done counts. I've got counts out on New London Turnpike from another study I recently did, and counts that we're doing as part of this on Hopkins Hill Road. So we have a basis of where we are. But I would wait till probably, 4 to 6 months post-construction connection to let traffic see where people are coming from, and then do the whole set of additional new counts. So we have a basis to go from instead of guessing. There's no reason to guess unless something's gonna happen within a short period.
So what's the first phase of the traffic study look like? It makes the assumption that the roadway is not connected and
As it is today, and the initial lots that we're proposing would be developed under the certain criteria.
And is that a traffic study you anticipate completing in the next month or so?
Yeah, we're working on it diligently right now.
Okay, yeah, we can have more discussion about that.
And-
Yeah,
and-
there's a lot of balls in the air as it relates to traffic. And then as it relates to certain stages of approval, I think our intent on the town's end, and you guys have heard it and it's been clear, is that, as we do look at these first two pieces, we did want to understand the broader impact of the full build out.
And that's what this document is part of the original approvals.
Is that the document that is now 20 years old?
Yes, the transportation master plan. So I can give you numbers of where they are today versus what was
So like
proposed.
the foundational
Yep.
baseline information. And are you guys seeking the same kind of improvements that document had purported in terms of this density?
Yes, I've already
and-
done a number of the improvements that were recommended at the time, because this was before Depot and Walmart.
Yeah, there's a lot of balls in the air, but traffic's obviously a critical issue for the project, so we'll want to understand exactly what we're getting now, and then we'll want to understand what's coming later. But that'll be a critical issue for us to have a good foundation of information on. And as I think it's been discussed with the applicant already, we fully anticipate every bit of traffic study that comes out is going to get a peer review of traffic. This is a complex issue, and there's a lot of new connections being made across the sites. So that'll be an important issue for us to really study and understand. And then have an independent engineer also study and understand the work that you're doing.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And as we said before, Doug, we're willing to start that work with the peer reviewer early so that Paul and he or she can be on the same page.
But you're looking at an interchange to interchange and all along the servicing, the large project area that will change from what it is today. We want to, provide the appropriate information instead of guessing.
We'll have more details to share with you too, because you're not privy to it, but we're the reinstatement that we just approved, which isn't going to create the traffic that but it would add to. I mean, that's within the same vicinity. We're receiving pre-applications for several other parcels that are right in this direct vicinity that we'll want to give you a heads up on of the future build out, not just of your parcels, but what we've received applications on in-house on our end, so that
You will include all that information.
yeah.
As provided.
yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Did you guys have any other additional points?
I don't think so. I would offer that if anybody at any time has any input, we'd love to hear things early so that we can address them. I'll make sure that Doug has all of our emails in case you want to communicate directly with the engineer. We're always interested in, like I said, early comments so that we can address them.
With the road being built going over the wetlands, is there gonna be a traffic light put in earlier on Hopkins Hill Road? Because
We don't know yet. That's part of the receiver. We know what's there now. It doesn't warrant a traffic signal. But he's,
and I tend to differ, but the traffic coming off of 95 is moving on that road. We've already had motor vehicle accidents there. I think the two gotta be hand in hand. If we're gonna build a bridge and we're gonna allow more access over here, and that's two lanes coming into Coventry, Scotia down to one. There needs to be some traffic signal there, is my opinion.
You took the common one off.
Yeah.
That was originally planned to have interchanges at both ends of that.
Yeah.
traffic light.
Yeah,
And you said early
that's
2000s, I've been involved in this since 1995.
that's recommended in here when warranted, but we can't just put in a traffic signal without satisfying state requirements.
For the warrants.
Yeah.
Where does it stand with the document that you have that dictates the types of calculations and when it reaches a warrant? I'll be very curious to see how the baseline information that you're using in that document should be subject to a peer review. And it's, you're looking at traffic numbers that are now 20 years old. So, where those warrants are and how that all works, it's, we're gonna want to know that there's modern information being used to rely on that.
We have looked at it and the numbers are quite similar to what they were.
Okay.
So to be clear, after that original study, he's been monitoring all this time, right, Paul? I mean,
For 5-year period.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, well, this will be interesting and we'll be very curious to know. I mean, essentially that crossing and the improvements to whatever intersections need to occur in the direct vicinity, that is coming as a separate action, not necessarily as a result of this petition.
Correct.
So the improvements that need to be made, essentially, we need to study and understand as it relates to the receivership's action. So do I understand that correctly?
Yes, and I believe the applicant would benefit long-term with control of that intersection for, all the development that's going to occur. And I believe he's interested in seeing, whatever needs to be done at that location.
Understood. So it's from a standpoint of how does that change interact with this application, it's certainly an important component of it, but it's not a component that falls underneath the umbrella of this application. But I do want to I think that should be something that we peer review, which is the baseline information on just connecting the roadway and the improvement that should be made. What does that warrant and what are those warrants? And that we'll want to understand that fully as we also understand the development that you're giving us and you're doing the build out of your application. We'll want to understand how that affects the warrants for lights of this connection and what this connection is gonna do to the.
I'm not
intersection.
sure what, the receiver, that other element is required to do is for permits and or approvals. to do-
Yeah.
to do-
I wanna get smart on that as well. I assume to some degree, you know, you guys may have had some fairly old local acknowledgement of that, but at the end of the day, I think that there still be wanna make sure that as you connect the center of New England Boulevard, and that work has impacts, as it will undoubtedly have impacts on the surrounding intersections, we'll wanna know, how do we account for that? Because at the end of the day, if this is an independent action that is not occurring as part of your application, then we want to also know, hey, we want that to be studied. To some degree, I don't know if the receivership needs to have an independent look at this, a traffic study that they've developed that perhaps is borrowing information that you've developed. But there might be a need to assess that. But we will want to understand that the best that we can. I know that you're a separate applicant, but you guys obviously you work coordination with the receiver. So if we need to receive that information independently because they anticipate construction of that this summer, then I want to start to receive that information as soon as we can, so we can start reviewing it.
If I can speak to that, maybe clarify, Phil, the crossing is something the receiver is gonna do.
Understood.
The meetings that we've had so far, there's been no discussion of a light out at Hoppin Hill. We've had a discussion that we think that when
This
this
project.
project comes online, that it could be warranted. And, you know, I don't want to speak for my client or the receiver, but I think the study of whether that light is needed or not really kind of comes under our purview. So like it would, in my opinion, it would be part of the application for this project as we go forward, whether we need a light here or not, because we don't want to be stuck in a scenario where, and Kelly, if I'm saying something you disagree with, please say so. But we don't want to be stuck in a scenario where we feel we need a light for the development and the receiver is controlling that and it's not moving at our pace. So I think that is, Paul, as part of your first phase, we're gonna look to see what happens here, because that frankly would probably be a worst case scenario. If you're pushing all of 2 and 3, 8 and 7 all onto Hoppin Hill, that's gonna be a worst case scenario and would probably dictate if a light's needed. I think this is only gonna help, so.
I think what I'm hearing is that obviously your project and the number of units you're bringing and the full build out of all the units, that will have a different impact on the warrants for a light and increasing the traffic. I think what I'm hearing though is that independent of your project, there's already movement being made to begin to work towards a construction schedule this summer
Right.
for the crossing.
Yes.
And so that as an independent action, I think we need to make sure we understand it. We've reviewed the information, we peer reviewed it accurately, because if that independent action includes a warrant for a light, I'm not denying that your applicant and that your client might want to be coordinated with that. But if that independently triggers a warrant for a light, well, that's a separate discussion. And what I'm hearing is that that does not appear to by the data, but we'll want to really review and understand that.
The thing is, long-term, we know that a light would probably be installed at that location. DOT probably won't allow us based on speculation. They're gonna wanna see
It's a town,
It's a town road, that's not a state
that
road.
section of Hopkins Hill.
Yeah,
and
it's
it's-
an adult town road.
town.
And I think this is a question I'd asked before is, if it's a town road, you put in a signal up, does the state traffic commission still get involved? So
That's a town regulatory.
Well, and that's why I'm gonna say it one more time. I think getting the peer review involved early is really, really important. So whenever we can find out who that is, I think it's really important for Paul to start communicating with that person, because you're gonna rely on the peer review.
Understood. Would you and your client support the idea that we're going to bring in a peer review that is beginning to look at essentially what would be the receiver's product? And
Well,
receivers.
No, I think that we have to have a separate conversation
Sure.
with the receiver. But that doesn't take away from the fact that I think for our purposes, we need the peer review immediately. We'll deal with what we need to separate and what we need to address. But having the peer review on board, so that Paul can communicate with that person directly is really, really important. That's gonna be the biggest
And I would just suggest that with regards to the crossing being built, again, based on the conversations I had, they haven't had any conversations or mentioned while I've been there about coming back to the town for a permit to build it. They think that because it's been
I think that
approved.
the crossing is fully permitted.
Well, it is fully permitted.
Do the permits, would that be talking about 20-year-old permits at this point?
Well, this is why I was gonna suggest that it could be a conversation between the receiver, Steve Angel, and yourself as to what's required, because I think it's, now that you're bringing it up, it's fuzzy. I mean, does it need a permit? Because again, it's already been reviewed and approved by DEM and the Army Corps. And that's.
And likely by the planning board, by the way.
Well, yeah.
So I mean, once that was recorded, that doesn't expire. So, but again, those are issues that I don't, want you to
Well,
get.
at the end of the day, I know that the project, the improvements, the number of houses is the real vehicle behind what's gonna drive what we wanna see and do there. But what I'm hearing is that there's a component of this that is coming before and is outside of your application. And I wanna know that we have the adequate resources to really understand that as well.
Yeah, and I think that frankly is gonna be part of the traffic study that we're doing, because we wanna know. I mean, I think you're gonna get the answer you want on what does this crossing do to traffic, because that's part of the work that falls down.
And, understanding that that section is a town road. The London Turnpike was a town road too, and he didn't pull a permit. And the DOT threatened to put Jersey barrier in front of his, to block it off with BJ's when he wanted to do more, until he did submit a permit.
That was an intent initially, and developer decided he was gonna hold off until we had enough accidents that warranted the force that we had.
And it's because of its proximity, the DOT said, yes, we want to look at it because of the scale. With this and where we are with our driveway, if it's a public safety matter. And the town is willing to move forward and make it a requirement. We can design it next month.
Yeah.
You can tell us when we want it in.
And keep in mind, the crossing is completed. Without it, one of your access points in and out of is going to be choked up, so that eventually only two choke points are going to be your ingress and egress going directly into another area. So I think that crossing and that exit egress out is going to be important. And keep in mind that many of the traffic you've got now at Walmart and at this center in West Range for the townhouse will end up using that.
Of course.
Either going over.
Right.
Of course.
So you're gonna get more traffic from the eastern end going over
Right.
also,
Right,
which is the initial intent.
yes. I know my client wants a well-designed,
Yeah.
I mean, he's essentially developing the rest of center of New England, so he wants it to work well.
Yeah.
And that's why I've said it several times, that I think traffic is really important, and that we need to get involved with the town's peer reviewer as soon as possible.
Keep in mind what the town went through, the initial developer trying to get things done, and it's like pulling teeth.
We're not the same person. We're not the same.
Different
It's the
developer.
same thing. Yeah.
Well,
But I can tell you
okay.
how fire department, I wrote multiple letters about why this crossing never happened. There's a public safety issue over here, there's an access issue. We're excited to see this crossing finally be built, to say the least. I gotta tell you. And I have been involved since 1995 with this project. I've been fire chief for 31 years, and this had a whole different look to it back in the late 90s than what it does today. And getting this crossing done is one big thing that's going to help a lot for public safety. And I'm glad we're moving forward with it.
I would say, it's not your role, but certainly you're in touch, and these applicants are in touch with the receiver. Yeah, I hadn't heard that they were looking to break ground this summer. That was news. So we'd certainly like to make sure that we're dotting our i's and crossing our t's in terms of all of the documentation we have on that. What, if any, local permits or agreements are needed. So that'll be a piece that we're going to be interested to understand if that's basically moving ahead of the project. We'll want to understand that.
And I would just say a lot of good things are gonna start happening, because this is being proposed as a a comprehensive development, so, you know, all the things that need to be done, lights and traffic, you know, attention to traffic issues are gonna be addressed.
And they're finally gonna be resurfacing or putting final surface course on, and
Yes.
striping. So
Yes.
a lot of positive things are gonna happen.
Yeah, and please note, when you do that, there's other things that need to be done. I mean, there's some of that binders failed. You've got
Yes.
curving that's actually falling in because they didn't have. Correct.
Yeah.
There's a lot of.
That's all called out.
Yeah, so just to elaborate on that, so the receiver, again, is working with the Amber. They have money set aside to work that Paul just described between, you know, resurfacing, putting down the top course. They have an allowance for fixing curb, for fixing sidewalks, for fixing the binder that's deteriorated, so, the Amber, who's right here, is, so I know I had a meeting, I think it was the last
Last
week before, so last week in the office, and, you know, Mike Danvers guys walked the site with Crossman, who's gonna basically, they're basically the owner's representative or the receiver's rep, so they're gonna be out there inspecting if everything's done properly.
And this sidewalk has to be ADA compliant right now. That's the-
Yeah.
All right, well, any other comments? Questions from the applicant at this stage?
I don't think so.
Any other comments from TRC members?
Tim? Yeah. Not even here.
All right,
Okay.
if that's the case, then, we will consider that matter completed. We have the comments that the members have made will be provided to the planning commission, and we will, look forward to seeing you on, June 26th at the planning commission.
Thanks for your time, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can we take Willow Lakes back from you? We're gonna meet up the planning commission.
You want full size, Doug? I have a print for free here.
Yeah, I'll take some plans. I don't know how much.
A little bit of scribble on one of
Thank
mine.
you. We'll do, a formal action to adjourn. We don't even take motions on them. I'll just, acknowledge that was the last item on the technical review committee agenda. This meeting is considered adjourned.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
For the members of the public that are here, if you wish to comment on the project, you can always write an email to myself or any planner, and we'll get some welcome. Off the street from us, and I'll give them a compliment.